So I was talking to Prestige Kithy about defenses. My defense did okay. I didn't end up using what I thought I would, but it was enough to squeeze me into G1 with a 26% win rate throughout the week. Obviously that win rate during Rush was much lower, but interestingly also look at my win rate. My win rate is quite low as well. That's as I'm getting used to my AOs. I found a couple of interesting things about AOs. So this is interesting, right? The way I'd normally kill this is with this setup. So I'd go first and just tail execute that Zyros. It is, interestingly, that is kind of a slow process because I kill Zyros on turn 1. On my follow-up, I can pretty much disable Theomars and kill him the turn after, but then the 2 win units are quite slow to finish off. But some of the changes I'll be making mean I may actually find it a little bit harder to one-shot those Zyros. Whereas this defense, which I guess it's kind of trying to be stally, but this can be cleared very rapidly. So it's good to be thinking about, because, it's not like people are thinking, can I beat this defense? Because, pretty typically they can. But it's like, how grindy is it going to be? How long is it going to take me to win? Alright. Ooh, catastrophe. Well, it doesn't get much worse than that, but even so, still pretty quick. I don't have wings to do the other one. Oh well. Anyway, look, it is just way slower using single target nukes, I guess, for obvious reasons. Alrighty, so this has been my defense for a long time. It's my defense currently, and Kithy is saying get Orion in there, which I will be doing. It's interesting because this one with Bernard was my AO for a really long time, and it's going to have consequences, right? But Bernard's really nice because he can debuff a Theomars in a way that really makes Theomars... It removes him as a threat pretty much completely. That's not very true with Orion, so there are consequences to doing this. Also, like I was saying with my Taor, when I have, instead of Theomars in there and I use Taor, like when I'm one-shotting Zyros, Bernard scales skill 2, which is a speed scaling skill, and Orion's obviously not going to do that either, so it'll be interesting to see how much damage I lose in that process. This was the defense I actually ended up using during Rush. And I was under a lot of pressure, so I didn't set up my defense probably as well as I could have, but anyway, my concept was Vanessa, Bernard, Theomars creates a little threat block, and because Bernard boosts, Vanessa armor breaks, and Theomars can then kill, it is still quite threatening even without the sustain from Chasun or the attack buff. And then with Rena on the end there, it's like if you come in and you're trying to deal with my threats, maybe Rena's going to end up being in pretty good nick, then it will take you quite a while to burn through her, or perhaps you lose a nuke and you've only got 1 or 2 nukes left to try and work down Rena, which means she could live for quite a while. So it turned away enough people from attacking me that I managed to just squeeze into G1, but that is what I was using. Now what Kithy is saying is that, so during midweek, yeah, same thing but with Orion, right, Vanessa, Orion, Theomars, Chasun, but for Rush, he's saying Veramos, Dark Death Knight. and Chloe. And, you know, it's interesting. So Veramos, he's saying, all right, Violent Nemesis, 30k HP, 1500 defense. I'm at 30k HP, but I think 1100 defense, so I've got a bit of work to do there. Dark Death Knight, mine's on triple revenge because it's a raid build, and so I'd need to address that, but it's an interesting unit because it makes everyone else a little more survivable. But when you try and drill down on him, he reduces crits, so it's going to take a while to burn through him. Now Chloe, he's saying double Nemesis will, so that when the AoEs come in, she steals the turn and then can cast shield and interrupt. So I think that's quite cool. I think Chloe is an underrated unit, or, you know, cleverly built Chloes, not like okay, well, that's not what I mean, right? Super fast Chloes are still clever. Like, that still is very effective. But sneaky Chloes, right? Sneaky Chloes. Chloes that are actually a bit slower than expected and cast their shield in the middle of your attack sequence rather than before your attack sequence. So that way it mitigates the impact strippers have on your defense. And then Rena, because Rena's ridiculous, right? Just a ridiculous unit. So that's what he's suggesting. I think it is really cool. I am going to try and see if I can make that work. It will require a bit of a rerun, but I can certainly see the logic and where he's coming from. Veramos scales with 3 of these units. Well, no, he scales with... Well, Veramos' skill 2 does scale off HP, but it's not particularly damaging anyway. Dark Death Knight scales off HP as well, but it's actually not that damaging. But Rena scales very effectively off HP for her shield. So the other thing that I wanted to take a look at was this unit that Zamte was curious about, which is Rica. I think Rica's really cool. Some people don't like her, but I think she's great. So Rica, skill 3, Fire Guardian Angel, attacks all enemies 3 times, and each attack has a 40% chance to decrease their attack speed and inflicts continuous damage for 2 turns. Alright, so this is a 510% multiplier, which is huge. That's as good as Zyros. And the fact that it attacks multiple times means you've got some defense against mollies, right? Multiple attacks is a counter to glances. So, attacks all enemies 3 times, each attack has a 40% chance to decrease their attack speed. Attack speed's a really cool debuff, but really what's special about this skill is that huge multiplier. So 510% multiplier with a little bit of a lackluster attack stat. 823 base attack isn't very high, but it's not too bad. Means that she should be able to do fairly impressive damage with skill 3. So I'll be looking to rune her for damage. I'll be using her in a group of 3 AoEs, or 2 AoEs and a stripper. The 4th unit in both those examples being Galleon. And Zamte does have appropriate units to match with her. He could use Pung Beck, Alicia, and Rica with Galleon, or I don't think he's got a stripper yet. So anyway, I guess if I was Zamte, I'd be using 3 nukes in Galleon. But then he doesn't have wheel runes, so actually it would have to be Chloe, 2 nukes in Galleon, right? So I'd go Alicia leader, Rica, Chloe, Galleon. I think that would be a very effective team. Alright, now how do you rune a Rica? So Rica doesn't scale off speed in any way. Alright, well that's not true. Everything scales off speed in a way, because you get more turns, you can do more damage, but her 1 turn damage isn't affected by speed. So attack, crit damage, attack would be the natural place to start looking, and that's probably how I'd go with it. Attack, crit damage, attack. If you put speed on nukes these days and they don't scale off speed, the tanky meta is just going to soak up that damage no problem and then come right back at you. So I would go attack, crit damage, attack. Now the actual rune set, so rune set wise you've got 4 that you're going to be tossing up. So Fatal, Rage, Violent, and Despair would be the natural things people would want to look at. And I got some particular views on this, so just objectively looking at it, if you're going attack, crit damage, attack, Rage is the optimal 1-turn damage set. It just multiplies best that way. Whereas if your speed crit damage attack, then Fatal is going to give you a better result most of the time. Always worth noting that if you do Rune Rage, you'll want to lean towards attack substats, and if you do go Fatal, you want to lean towards crit damage substats. Her debuffs are really nice, so to help further decide what you might want to use, right? This has a really nice speed debuff, and continuous damage is always good, but the decreased speed is really great. This has a stun, and this has a sleep. Okay, so Violent is going to be a really interesting rune set to use, because you could go skill 3, and then hopefully you can go skill 2. Skill 3, 510%, skill 2, 300%, both AoEs, which means you get to do 810%, which is a shocking amount of damage. But also Violent's going to let you keep up with Chassoons or other Violent healers, you know, so like at the end game, if it hasn't gone super to plan and you've only got like a Rica and a Galleon left, Violent's going to help you grind down like Chloe Chassoon, right? It's going to give you better odds of winning that, because Violent does the most damage over time, more than Fatal or Rage. So Violent makes a lot of sense to me. Rage makes a lot of sense to me, but Fatal's still going to be really good. Right, does Despair make sense? Okay, so on skill 3, yes, absolutely, Despair makes sense. On skill 2, this 50% chance, that it goes to 60%, this 60% chance significantly mitigates the value of Despair, right? Because only 40% of the time, assuming the accuracy, right, just ignoring the accuracy side of things for a moment, but only 40% of the time will the unit not be stunned, meaning that Despair could stun them, right? Which means you get a 10% cumulative increase. So you go from 60% stun chance to 70% total stun chance, and that's not great. Help Me Teddy has a sleep, so 75% of the time they don't get put to sleep, which means 75% of the time you get a chance to despair them. And so that means it's also reduced in value a bit there. So I would lean away from Despair unless I was very specifically trying to create some sort of like massive stunny situation. I would be much more interested in just killing the units, using skill 3 and then hopefully getting a Violent and going to skill 2, or just making the most of skill 3 with Rage or Fatal. So Rage, Fatal, or Violent are the rune sets that I'd be most interested in. She has natural accuracy, which makes her somewhat easier to rune, because you can just basically ignore accuracy altogether, because she's going to have enough from just accidental subs that you have and the 25% or 25 accuracy boost she gets from Awakening. The stats that you want to be focusing on, so you do want tankier units these days, so she's got good base HP and solid defense as well. So, you know, maybe like 1500 HP and 1000 defense makes a reasonably tanky nuke. But you'll be wanting to be focusing on a really high crit rate. It's reasonably unlikely you'll want to use her as a leader herself, despite the fact she's got this massive crit rate increase. More likely, Zamte would want to be using his 44% attack power leader skill from Alicia, which affects everyone, whereas this only affects fire. Right? So you want a really high crit rate, and then you're going to want to pick up as much attack and crit damage as possible. If you're using Fatal, you want to pick up more crit damage. If you're using Rage, you want to pick up more attack. Right? That's how I'd rune Rica. I'd use her in a team with Galleon and another nuke. Man, she's just the coolest unit, right? Like, check out the detail in that umbrella. Those touches are just so nice. She's such a great model. But that's how I'd rune Rica. So, best of luck, Zamte. Hopefully that's useful for you.